Life of David Livingston, Part 42. I saw others perish, particularly a very fine boy of 10 or 12 years of age. When asked where he felt ill, he put his hand correctly and exactly over the heart. He was kindly carried, and as he breathed out his soul, was laid gently on the side of the path. The captors are not unusually cruel. They were callous. Slaving hardened their hearts. When Said, an old friend of mine, crossed Lulalaba, he heard I was in the village where a company of slave traders were furiously assaulted for 3 days, and by justly incensed Bobemba. I would not fight nor allow my people to fire if I saw them, because Bombeba had been especially kind to me. Said sent a party of his own people to invite me to leave the village and come to him. He showed himself the opposite of hard-hearted, but slavery hardens within, petrifies the feelings, is bad for the victims and ill for the victimizers. Once it is said a party of 12 who had been slaves in their own country, Kunda or Kanda, of which Kaenzemba is chief or general, were loaded with large, heavy yokes, which were forked trees, about 3 inches in diameter and 7 or 8 feet long, the neck inserted in the fork, and an iron bar driven across one end of the fork to the other, and riveted to the other end, tied at night to the tree or ceiling of the hut, and the neck being firm in the fork, and the slave held off from unloosing it, was excessively troublesome to the wearer, and when marching, 2 yokes were tied together by tree ends, and loads put on the slaves' heads beside. A woman having an additional yoke and load, and a child on her back, said to me on passing, "They are killing me. If they would take off the yoke, I could manage and load the child, but I shall die within 3 loads." The one who spoke this did die. Poor little girl. Her child perished of starvation. I interceded some, but when unyoked, off they bounded into the long grass, and I was greatly blamed for not caring in presence of the owners of the property. Goodness. After the day's march under a broiling vertical sun with yokes and heavy loads, the strongest were exhausted. The party of 12 above mentioned were sitting down, singing and laughing. "Hallo," said I, "these fellows take to it kindly. This must be the class for whom philosophers say slavery is the natural state." And I went and asked the cause of their mirth. I had asked aid of their owner as to the meaning of the word ruka, which usually means fly or leap. They were using it to express the idea of hunting, as a ghost inflicting disease or death, and the song was, "Yes, we going away to Manga, abroad or white man's land, with yoke on our necks, but we shall have no yokes in death, and shall return and haunt and kill you." Chorus then struck in, which was the name of the man who had sold each of them, and then followed the general laugh, in which at first I saw no bitterness. Terembi, an old man, at least 104 years, being one of the sellers, in accordance with African belief, they had no doubt of being soon able by ghost power to kill even him. The refrain was as if, "Oh, oh, oh, bird of freedom, you sold me. Oh, 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 I shall haunt you. Oh, oh, oh." Laughter told not of mirth, but of tears, such as were oppressed, and they had no comforter. He that is higher than the highest regardeth. If I am permitted, says Dr. Livingston, in concluding the subject of the slave trade, in any way to promote its suppression, I should not grudge the toil and time I have spent. It would be better to lessen this great human woe than to discover the sources of the Nile. The moral degradation of these people is only to be reached and cured in the deliberate judgment of the explorer missionary through the means of Christian civilization. The religion of Christ, he says with emphasis, is unquestionably the best for man. I refer to it not as a Protestant, the Catholic, the Greek, or any other, but to the comprehensive faith which has spread not more widely over the world than the most people imagine, and whose votaries of whatever name are better than any outside the pale. The great end of placing the numerous tribes of East and Central Africa under the pressure and elevating morality of the Christian religion cannot be successful until the suppression of the inhuman slave trade, which has its headquarters at Zanzibar, shall have been accomplished. It would be unjust to forget that Great Britain had done so much, very much, for the suppression of this terrible traffic in other portions of the globe. It would be unjust to charge the government of Great Britain with intentional criminality in this case, but it stands proved by the failure of English expeditions to find Dr. Livingston, and by his own positive, earnest testimony, now that an American expedition has succeeded in discovering him, that it is the subjects of the British monarchy who are responsible for the existence of the slave trade of Zanzibar, and all the nameless horrors of the interior resulting therefrom. The moral culpability by reason of neglect, not to put the case too strongly, of the British government is therefore made manifest, and of this great national turpitude that government must stand convicted before the bar of Christendom. Chapter 19. The Animal Kingdom of Africa.